And we are live. This is the High Flying Podcast where we be drop kicking it with the boys. So make sure to body slam that like, share, and subscribe button. I am your host, Biggie Bag Johnny. And today we are back with another one. One of my favorite segments of this podcast. We have actually stopped the whole fucking podcast just to do these segments. I love them. They're one of my favorites. They should be everybody's favorites because if you're a wrestling fan, you want to know the scoop, right? And that's what we're doing here. You already know what time it is. Darkside of the Ring on the High Flying Podcast. The reviews. We done Doing the Clown. We've done Adrian Adonis. We done the Junkyard Dog. We did this Sunny, but we gotta run that one back because that one didn't go through. Yeah, man, we here. All right, guys, we are here. We're up early. We're trying to be productive. I got fucking cramps all in my legs. This shit is killing me. But I do it for you guys. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. Took my dogs out. I haven't even ate breakfast. But I definitely had my morning hood breakfast for champions. So, shouts out to Vice, man, for even coming up with this idea of Darkside of the Ring, man. I really love this show, man. You guys have no idea. I can literally watch this show all fucking day. So, let's get into it. Darkside of the Ring. This is Season 4, Episode 2, Shattered with Magnum TA, the story. Alright? So, I really, like, the thing about these guys is, some of these guys I'm just learning about. Magnum TA, I had a couple action figures of his, you know, the little classics and stuff like that. I'm not exactly sure if he's still alive. I believe he still is, but we're going to find out what's going on and how this story gets dark. I was watching a little bit and listening to it this morning, seeing what's up. You know, I like to listen to it before I get on. And this one is brand new, so I'm going to let it rock. You know what I mean? I'm gonna see what's gonna go on. We're gonna smoke. We're going to enjoy it. I appreciate you guys for watching. I've noticed some of the viewers and the subscribers is going up. So I appreciate all of that, guys. The channel's still growing. We have a lot of stuff coming up other than these. So please do not be fooled. This is just right now because this is what I like to do. So I decided I just got married and I've been doing a lot. And I've been being a father to my dogs. My dog right here, she has to get in here. My baby. So yeah, so we wanted to just kind of take a break and basically do what it do. So with all of that being said, this is Darkside of the Ring. Let's get it popping. Let's go. Magnum TA, the story.
At the dawn of the 1980s, Magnum TA burst onto the wrestling scene. With his athleticism, charisma, and movie star good looks, he quickly became a top star for Jim Crockett Promotions and a valuable weapon in the company's war against Vince McMahon.
All the big guns come here when they want to get it done, and that's why Magnum TA is here.
At that point in time, Jim Crockett Promotions was the only other wrestling promotion in the country that had the ability to compete with Vince McMahon.
There's only one Hulk Hogan, Daddy.
I believe that Magnum could have been for Crockett what Hulk Hogan was for WWF.
There's only one Magnum TA. There will ever be only one Magnum TA.
It was like being a rock star. I was given the keys to the city. The sky is the limit.
But Magnum's meteoric rise to fame and fortune would end in an instant.
Blow took me right into the roof, and my C5 vertebrae exploded,
throwing his life and career into tragedy and chaos.
He is in the intensive care unit at Charlotte Memorial Hospital.
Terry Allen was the future. You put all your cards in that basket, and the basket was turned over.
This, devastating thing changed everyone's reality.
Healthy, wealthy, wise. All of a sudden, boom, gone.
The story of Magnum TA is the story of what might have been, not just for the man himself, but for the entire wrestling world.
He was told he would not walk again.
This is WrestleMania. This is the thing of today. Hulkamania is running wild.
In the early 1980s, professional wrestling explodes in popularity, dominated by Vince McMahon, his star Hulk Hogan, and his powerhouse promotion, the WWF.
This Vince McMahon is a genius.
But down south, a rival wrestling company stands in defiance of the growing McMahon empire.
They know that Jim Crockett, the Wrestling Network, is the best thing going. That's why they're here. Yeah!
As smaller companies across the country fold, Jim Crockett Promotions represents one of the last lines of defense against the WWF's nationwide takeover. But where the WWF showcases kid-friendly cartoon personas, Crockett's brand of pro wrestling is a world of blood, grit, and glamour.
Soon to appear on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, Mr. Jim Cornette.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm Jim Cornette. I've been involved in wrestling for over 40 years, but in the 1980s...
That's the motherfucking man. If you don't know who Jim Cornette is in the wrestling world, man, you're not a fan and you should kill yourself. I'm a funk flex shit.
I was one of the managers that led many of Magnum TA's opponents to the ring. Crockett in the Carolinas had a tremendously strong base of fans, and also that roster from Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes, the Road Warriors, the Rock and Roll Express. It went on and on. That was the gathering place now for all the top wrestlers that were going to oppose Vince McMahon.
Crockett Promotions, around 1985. We are on the rise. We're clicking on all four cylinders. My name is David Crockett. Jim Crockett is my father.
And I'm Tony Schiavone, joined by Mr. Jim Crockett, president of Jim Crockett Promotions.
You had Vince McMahon, WWF, that was wanting to take over the country.
It is well documented in the official World Wrestling Federation magazine that Mr. Hogan's popularity is indeed worldwide.
And we liked what we were doing, so we said, nah, that's not gonna happen. We had a great stable of wrestlers.
Nobody can beat the American dream!
But we needed that special something.
Crockett needed somebody for the future. And if you had a character, kick-ass babyface over here and a legend over here, you always needed the matinee idol, the movie star, right there in the middle of everything.
Who would be the good guy?
Earliest memories of television, like 6, 7 years old, were watching professional wrestling with my dad. And it evoked all these emotions of watching guys that were like real live action superheroes. So as a little kid, you start thinking, maybe this is something I could do. And I was the most unlikely guy to be doing this because I had no athletic background. My name is Terry Allen, better known as Magnum TA. God.
Obviously, he's still alive. Well, so shouts out to Magnum TA, Terry Allen, man. You look good for your age, brother. I don't know how old are you, but you look good, man. So, shouts out to you. I hope this story doesn't get too dark for you, brother.
I started out wrestling in the 9th grade, and I applied myself to it like nothing I'd ever done. So as I worked my way up the ranks, by the time I'm a senior, I ended up winning the state tournament.
Magnum is from Norfolk, Virginia, and he was working at a bar in Virginia Beach, and that's where tons of the Carolina wrestlers would go, because that was kind of a vacation spot when you were up in that part of Virginia for the weekend. The guys would go party in Virginia Beach.
In the 70s, I was in college and I was working security in nightclubs and bars, and the wrestlers would come down to the place where I work. And they're ribbing with me, and because I'm a big guy. There was a guy there that saw me, and his name was Buzz Sawyer.
Buzz Sawyer was one of the most talented in-ring performers in the history of wrestling, and was one of the most obnoxious, crooked, surly, and discontented son of a bitches in the world outside of it.
So Buzz Sawyer sees me, he like all buddy. So look, you know, it's really hard to get into this business, but I can help you. But I feel like this guy is really gonna help me. So now I see this as a potential career path. So he comes even to my parents' home and talks with all of us. Tells us, you know, how tough the business is to get in, but he has these inroads and he can help me. And he tells me a wrestling license costs $10,000, 10 grand. And my mom and dad are like, 10 grand. 10 grand might as well have been 100 grand in 1979. My mom believed in me, and she went to her dad, my granddaddy Smith, and he gave me the money.
Oh, nice. Let's
he said,
go.
I believe in you. And so we give him the money, and so I'm going to get in. He's going to get me in the door. And next thing I know, Buzz has left the Carolinas.
No.
Poosh. Mind blown.
Buzz was just trying to bilk an aspiring young man out of some money and saw where he could get it. He was an asshole.
So this dude comes to this dude's job, hypes him up like, yo, bro, you got the body of a fucking superstar, bro. Like, you got it, bro. Listen, I got these connections. I just need $10,000, bro. Grown ass man goes to his fucking mom and dad. Nah, bro, I ain't got it. Nah, that's it, kid. You know, that's it. And then the mom was like, oh, Jerry, come on. No, I'm sorry. I don't have it. We don't have it. The kid was supposed to go to college. He blew that shit. No way. Then she goes to her dad. He gives him them. Now, mind you, in the 70s, $10,000 was worth, like he said, $100 now. And then you get robbed for that. Yo, bro, you know the feeling?
Wrestling licenses are still a real thing, and were a real thing at that point in states that have athletic commissions. If they have an athletic commission, you have to be licensed to be a wrestler, a manager, an announcer, or whatever. They generally cost between $10 and $25. So Buzz Sawyer wasn't going to sell Magnum TA any kind of wrestling license.
Did you ever get that money back from Buzz Sawyer?
No. So one night I tell Jimmy Garvin my Buzz Sawyer story. Jimmy knew Buzz. He knew all too well what was going on.
Garvin does not lose his cool as quickly as Sawyer.
I encouraged him to go find Buzz and ask Buzz to hook him up. And I literally believe he left the next day and drove to Oregon.
I found out what his apartment number was and knocking on the door. He opens the door, kind of surprised to see me.
I know
so
he
he takes me down to the ring the next day, and I work out for 2 solid hours. And I learn how to tie up, hit the ropes, do some spots, take a backdrop.
It wasn't uncommon in those days if a guy saw some young prospective talent that wanted to train or wanted to be taught, yeah, I'll take this guy, he's an idiot, we'll run him off, whatever. But in this case, it came back to bite him because Magnum turned out to be a bigger star than Buzz ever was.
Oh, wow. And the next night, I wrestled Buzz on television. They all think, hey, you did a pretty good job. They think I've been in the business. They think I'm trained. They think Buzz trained me. Well, he did. He trained me for 2 hours. And then I got booked 7 nights a week.
And I knew Magnum from the get-go. He burst onto the scene, man, and he was a breath of fresh air to watch.
Jake the Snake Roberts!
I'm what's left of Jake the Snake Roberts. He was no sucker, man. He was just so hungry and wanted it so bad.
Terry's unrelenting drive and raw talent earn him admiration from promoters, fans, and fellow wrestlers. His hard work pays off when a single phone call propels his career to new heights.
Betty Graham, that owns Florida Championship Wrestling. So he, boom, picks up the phone, gives me a call. He said, I got a spot for you. And so again, I pack up all my belongings and off I go back across the country and head south. That's where the true education of the wrestling business really started the day I stepped foot in the territory of Florida.
From Virginia Beach, Virginia, weighing in at 240 pounds, Terry Allen.
So when I first came to the territory in Florida, the booker, the creative development guy, American Dream Dusty Rhodes.
Let's go!
I've seen his pictures on the cover of magazines.
Oh, Dusty Rhodes was one of the greatest wrestlers ever, man. The best showman ever, without a doubt. He was our Muhammad Ali.
The booker of a major wrestling promotion is like the major motion picture director in Hollywood. He decides the final say on the actors, who's going to play the parts, how they're going to do it, what their demeanor is, the way that the thing is shot. So the booker was the director, and Dusty Rhodes saw in Magnum TA his next movie star.
Dusty had the potential to see talent and charisma within people that didn't know how to bring it out.
Right here is the global tag team champion, Terry Allen.
And he became the most influential guy on my career of anybody that I ever came in contact with.
I don't know how many motherfucking times we gonna hear that. Dusty Rhodes is the epitome of wrestling. I don't know, wait. That sounds wrong. Dusty Rhodes is wrestling. Dusty Rhodes built, I'm going to say about like 45 to maybe even 55% of fucking wrestling. From people from the 70s to Roman fucking Reigns right now. Most of the champions in fucking... Every champion that's in the game has learned from Dusty. Let that just sizzle in your soul.
Dusty pushed Magnum TA to the heights of pro wrestling. He believed in him. He teamed with him. They were personal friends. Hello, everyone. This is Bill Apter, and I am the most recognizable journalist and independent broadcaster in the world of pro wrestling for the past 51 years.
Good shit.
People used to say that he looked like Tom Selleck, and Andre the Giant thought so much about that he said to Magnum,
"You look like Tom Selleck, you should call yourself Magnum TA."
And that's how it happened.
Back in the 80s, there was a TV show with a star named Tom Selleck, and it was about a detective, and his name was Magnum PI. So Andre looks over at me and he says, "Boss," he said, "you're ready." And I said, what do you mean I'm ready? He said, "You're ready for something." He said, "But you need a handle." So he tied it all together and took the Magnum and the Terry Allen TA and put that name together.
After just over a year in Florida, Magnum TA returns to the road, this time joining the high-octane wrestling circuit known as Mid-South.
Magnum TA.
Action continues now. The popular star, Magnum TA. Here's Buddy Nichols to tell us about it.
Really a very personable young man, one with a lot of wrestling talent, and as we mentioned last week, one with a lot of desire and an opportunity to go a long way in this wrestling business.
So I come to Mid-South as Magnum TA. I don't know what Magnum TA means at this point in time. It's a name. I don't know how this translates into me, and nor do the people that have brought me in. So one week they're telling me to wear suits and ties. And we do that for a couple weeks and they say, "You don't really seem comfortable in that." So then they say, well, maybe, punk rock was kind of a thing. They want me to wear like some punk rock clothes. I'm not comfortable at all in this, but we go through all these little things they trying to do. Nothing is clicking. So I called Dusty up. I said, I need to do something else. They don't know what to do with me. And he said, "I got it, baby. I got it. It's all good." He said, "Well, I'll tell you what you do." He said, "You go down and buy you a brand new Harley Davidson." So I bought a motorcycle jacket when I bought the new bike, and I ride that bike into town with that jacket on, and everybody looks. And it changed the whole perception immediately of who I was. Clint Eastwood and Charles Bronson and Bruce Lee and John Wayne all wrapped up in one package in a leather jacket.
He had the perfect look for professional wrestling. The perfect size, the physique, the face, the whole 9 yards.
This incredible it factor that I had not seen in a lot of pro wrestlers. He had it.
he was going up the ladder, man. He had it all. He burned it up there for a while. And of course, not very long.
Here it comes. I knew it. I liked this story a lot. Like, I was so intrigued and I was so fucking comfortable where it's just like, yo, dude, I never watched that I know of. I've never watched a Magnum TA, match. I probably have, but just didn't know about it. I love that story because it was like, I seen it. Like, he looked like he had like a Sid Vicious, Jake the Snake look, Ultimate Warrior, you know what I mean? Like, I liked it. Like, so it was just like, I was just too comfortable there. Like, oh, like, we could keep going. Just keep talking. Just keep going. But here it comes. Let's get dark.
Magnum TA is a rising star and a fan favorite in the Mid-South territory when he receives an offer that will change the course of his career.
I get the phone call and Dusty says, I want to introduce you to Jim Crockett. Puts Jim Crockett on the phone with me and says, look, I will promise you, if you come here, I will give you the greatest opportunity that anybody could ever ask for in the business.
I first met Magnum TA when he walked into the office. Here's this tall, 6'1", 6'2", very well built, blonde hair coming down, these piercing eyes, and this husky, raspy voice. Looking at the women in the office, they all, they do that. So that is the total package. The camera, who is the main judge, loved him.
All the fans have been waiting for this man, Magnum TA, and here he is.
You didn't have to put lights on to make him look good. He glowed.
Magnum TA is coming to Mid-Atlantic for one reason only, coming for the U.S. Heavyweight Championship.
Almost immediately, Crockett goes and barters a deal to go on TBS on the Superstation. The moment we went on the Superstation, everything changed. The territory started popping immediately, and we blew the roof off the place.
My name is Tamara Howell, and I was married to Terry Allen. We were together from 1981 until 1988. He got this raincoat jacket. He loved it. It was his Jesse James look. We did talk about having a family, but we were waiting until he became the World Championship title holder. Here we were at the baptism of Dusty and Michelle's son, Cody. It's pretty special.
The minute I make the emotional decision that I'm gonna settle down and I'm gonna get married, immediately my career path says, we wanna promote you as a sex symbol. We want you to be our superstar. We want you to be the people everybody tear their hair out and wanna get hold of.
He was the rock star. The cheers for Magnum were the squeals of the women in the audience. It was hysteria.
It was just absolute insanity. And it was the wild, wild west from the partying standpoint, the girls in every port and every place. It was bad. It was like Animal House 24/7. It was more than any red-blooded male could handle.
They were getting the motel key and panty treatment. Every night, it was insane. They had more sex on the way to the ring than I've had in my life.
You always play to the audience, whether it's male or female. I mean, the women crying, they want to get close to him after the match and get blood off of him. And, I'll never wash my hands again.
Well, I definitely could see his popularity. We were in a mall, we were in a boot store, and this girl just fainted seeing him. She got all flustered and turned red and fainted. So I think if everyone thinks you're the best thing since sliced bread, you might start believing that. I didn't work outside of the home. I always would unpack his wrestling bag from the night before. And when I was doing that, he had pictures in there. I had taken out the pictures and I just was flipping through them. And then I stopped and I was like, wait a minute, I don't have that bag. I thought it was me in the picture, but she had a different handbag than I would have carried. And I realized that wasn't me and I hadn't been wherever they were. So
now, as soon as I would fucking see a picture with my girl, if my wife is in a motherfucking picture with another man, it doesn't take me. But I just have to see the ear. Let me see an ear that's not mine. I know it's not mine, bitch. I don't know what fucking Botox medicine they got this motherfucker on, but she sound dumb as fuck. She sound like she's so fucking dingy. The bitch had to take a moment to look at the first picture. And she needed 3 more fucking pictures to motherfucking identify her fucking self that that's not her in the picture. Jinx, sit down, baby. Watch this shit. Check this out. Come here, baby. Come here, sit. Watch this shit. Check this out.
As Terry's rising fame pushes his marriage to the brink, a powerful opponent emerges, a Soviet-era strongman, bringing the Cold War to the wrestling ring.
Was I intimidated by Magnum TA? I think it was the other way around. I think he was intimidated by me. I am Nikita Koloff, better known to the wrestling fans as the Russian Nightmare.
You think he's going to run? Take a look at Nikita now. 22 inches now.
I hail from the great state of Minnesota, not from Russia like I portrayed back in the wrestling days.
Well, in the 80s, the United States and Russian political situation, here you have Magnum TA, American made. So you had the Russian might against American made.
Magnum TA, or Mega TA, as I used to call him, he had that whole look of that all-American. I'm like, man, this is, you might say, a match made in heaven.
And they had this incredible series, the Best of 7 series. It was one of the greatest feuds in pro wrestling history.
Between the #1 challenger, who is Nikita Koloff, and the former champion Magnum TA.
There's got to be a clear-cut winner for 4 matches. And Nikita Koloff, there's never going to be a day in my life that I had to look up to a Russian and call you a superior athlete.
Match #1, I have set myself to be this physical specimen, and so to go up 1-0. So the way we just built the story and how each match was finished, you know, whether it was a dominating victory on my part, going up 2-0, and then to go up 3-0, and then he catches me by surprise and he wins that first 3-1.
And the winner of match #4, Magnum TA!
He slips by and wins 3-2. Oh my gosh, there's hope. There's hope for America. Match #6, and he squeaks out another victory, and now it's 3-3, and it's going to come down to that final match #7.
The man standing before you right now is a man that's going to take it all home, bring it home right here, United States of America.
It couldn't have been set up any better. And Nikita Koloff gets the 1-2-3. Man, I want to tell you, the fans were not happy that night, boy. Talk about heat. The heat on me elevated to a whole nother level. And so, of course, Magnum, now he's got to chase and get back that U.S. title. That, by the way, set you up as #1 contender for the World Heavyweight title back in those days. Now the chase is on.
1986 was pretty much the culmination of a long-running rivalry between Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair for the world title. And next in line, whenever that trigger would have been pulled, was Ric Flair and Magnum TA. Into 87, 88, that would have been the direction they were going. Who's going to be the world champion? Who's going to be the dominant guy in the NWA? Ric Flair or Magnum TA?
In the 70s, 80s, the National Wrestling Alliance World's Heavyweight title was the most coveted wrestling title you could go after. That 10 pounds of gold belt was an amazing thing.
And he was going to get that, no doubt about it, because the powers that be loved him, you know, and they trusted him.
The powers that be are the promoters of the National Wrestling Alliance, the governing body of the majority of the nation's regional territories, including Jim Crockett Promotions.
There was a meeting that Dusty and I and Jim Crockett had where we flew up to New York, went out to dinner, and they told me that the decision had been made, the NWA had blessed it, and that I was going to be the next World's Heavyweight Champion. The trajectory was to take the next step, move away from Nikita so I can move back into that chase. But in the meantime, we've got this new brash, fresh, smack-talking heel named Jimmy Garvin that comes in, and we got this great new opportunity.
This is gorgeous Jimmy Garvin.
And this angle with Terry and Patty and I was going to be huge.
And I have confidence because I know that I'm the greatest athlete in the world and nobody could beat me.
But, you know, I had that match with him in Greenville, South Carolina that night. A heck of a match, and we were getting ready to blow the territory wide open. It just never happened because that was the night of the incident.
This is the most lightest dark side of the ring I've ever heard. I mean, it's still, we're halfway through, so let me just say, Magnum TA, I'm definitely going to go check out some of your matches. I can't wait to meet you one day. I can't wait to ask you for an autograph, and I can't wait to take a picture with you. Hopefully I get that chance. Excuse me. This story is great. I'm sad for whatever's about to happen. I'm sure it's a car crash or something like that. Go to your cage. Fucking kids, man. This is a great story. This is a great story to turn dark. I just hope that it's just not one of those, he got in a car crash, because I'm not hearing nothing about no drug usage, no steroids. I'm just hearing of a dude that was at the right time, at the right place, and motherfucking, he worked hard for it. You know, he was a good dude. He did everything right. There's no he's beating his bitch. There's no he's around the world acting crazy, spending all this crazy money on drugs or being in the bar or nothing. It's just a motherfucker doing his job. And I don't know if it's going to turn dark. I don't care if it turns dark, because wherever it's at right now, I'm enjoying this right now.
And now, here's your host, senior editor of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Bill Laughter.
Last week's show with Magnum TA got such a great response, we've asked the U.S. champ, Magnum TA, to be with us again this week. Magnum, 1985 was a darn good year for you. What's 86 have in store for you?
Well, 86 will be a continuation of the quest that I started in 1985, which was for the World's Heavyweight Championship held by Ric Flair.
He was going right to the top. I could not see any road taking him anywhere else except to the top.
We had everything sunk into him. Terry Allen was the future.
As Magnum TA closes in on the heavyweight title, he begins living the life of a world champion.
At that time, I had more money than I had since. I'd walked in the Porsche dealership and they had a brand new 911 Turbo sitting all on the floor. And that was the Mac Daddy. Write me up, I'm taking it. It was quick and it was cool. And I had the need for speed like Top Gun. You know, if it had a combustion engine in it and it was loud and it was fast, I liked it. My plan was to have a run with the belt, 27, by the time I'm 30, out of it, and then go drive NASCARs. I didn't want to be running around in my underwear in front of people at 30-some years old. I thought that was ridiculous.
On October 14th, 1986, after defeating gorgeous Jimmy Garvin in front of a roaring crowd in South Carolina, Magnum TA hits the road in his prized Porsche 911.
I'm 5 minutes from my house. I'm on a 2-lane road, and I've driven hundreds of times. It's like the horse turns the corner and knows the barn's right there, and I'm on the track. It was raining so hard, coming back you could barely see. The road that I was traveling on that night had a little slight bend curve in it. Right in the middle of the curve was a little divot in the road where water had gathered, probably 2-3 inches of water all the way across the road. When I went around the corner and that dip right in the middle of the car hydroplaned. When a car hydroplanes, it means your tire patch loses contact with that road.
Yeah.
So my tires were actually floating on top of that water. Mm-hmm. So I did what I had done before to counteract something, and I made the situation worse. The car spun violently the other direction, and I broadsided a telephone pole so hard that I cut it in half. It happened so fast, it was violent. And the blow was like I had been hit by a freight train.
Listen, man. That hydroplaning shit is no fucking joke, man. It's the most scariest fucking thing in the world. Especially when it's like a little... And the craziest thing is, man, it's literally like the littlest curve. And if you're on a hill, and that hill is towards a bridge, man, it's the most... And you're going down a fucking highway that motherfuckers is going 70 and fucking 80 and this... And you're trying to... You see the shit, and it's just like, oh my God. And you feel that wind, man. Listen. Hold on, baby.
I didn't know I was not okay until I couldn't move. And I was so big in the car that my shoulder was right up against the door. And I had just maybe an inch of headroom. So the blow took me right into the roof. The emergency crew came, and one of them grabbed me by my jacket to try to pull me up. And the other guy stopped and said, no, I can't move. So they used the jaws of life, cut the whole top of the car off, peeled it back like a tin can, stabilized me. They couldn't airlift me out because it was raining so hard. It took me by ambulance. It changed my life. It changed the people I work for. It changed my family. It changed everybody in a nanosecond.
The police called me. They were taking him to the hospital. On my way to the hospital, I was behind the tow truck that had his Porsche on it. And to see the Porsche the way it was very frightening. The roof was off. It was a mess. It looked like he probably was dead. Well, they took me aside and they told me that he had fractured his vertebrae. They needed to get him into surgery quickly.
My first view of a medical professional that's giving me a diagnosis, he used the words C5 quadriplegic and neck down paralysis. Me into one shot of ever attaining any level of mobility beyond sitting in a wheelchair and being taken care of by someone for the rest of your life. Matter of fact, they were just trying to figure out how I was going to breathe. They said my lungs were paralyzed. They were saying things to me like, well, maybe you might be able to be on an iron lung instead of a ventilator.
The guy's in intensive care. They've got him all hooked up. They keep him sedated. You just feared for the worst. It was, is he truly going to make it? What was going through his mind?
They're shooting me up with morphine every time I blink because they can't communicate with me. If I try to communicate anything, they think I'm hurting. So I'm in such bad shape, they're just zapping me with the moon and stars.
My brother came in, he just said, he'll never, ever get in the ring again.
According to the police report, Allen was going south here on Sardis Road, away from town, when his car went off the road on the far side back there, about 200 feet. He apparently tried to correct and bring it back onto the road, but it was slippery. and he ended up on this side, slamming into this telephone pole with enough force to break it in half.
Damn.
Memorial spokesperson Cecily Newton explained that Magnum has a spinal cord injury that is localized to the 5th cervical vertebrae.
And it exploded. It sent those bone fragments back and created compression on the spinal cord.
It was on every news channel. You saw the pictures of that car, and it's absolute miracle that anybody was alive. It was completely destroyed. It was the front page of the Charlotte Observer.
It's a type of situation where you don't believe it has happened until you actually see him, and no one has been able to see him, so we're still kind of stunned.
Radio, newspaper, we really didn't have internet, so it was all word of mouth.
I'm sorry, ma'am, that's the only thing I'm permitted to release at this time.
Memorial Hospital has fielded some 8,000 to 10,000 phone calls about Magnum TA since the wrestling star was admitted. The hospital lobby looks like a florist convention.
I think he received the most letters of anyone there at their hospital. I do have the newspaper clippings and bags of mail we received.
The hospital got so many calls, they had to shut the switchboard down. There were candlelight vigils of fans outside the hospital.
A lot of people held him close to their heart.
Arian Allen has been with her son since the accident. This afternoon, she wanted to thank all of the people who have sent prayers and cards.
It has been rough in a lot of cases, but I just don't think I could have gotten through this time without all that love and positive energy that I felt flowing around me.
Back in the day, like, we didn't go to the hospital because kayfabe, you know, it was a heel. He was a babyface, so didn't go to the hospital. And we just didn't do it.
In the 1980s, wrestlers and promoters still go to great lengths to maintain the illusion that wrestling is real, a practice known as keeping kayfabe.
So Flair and the Horsemen or any of the heels couldn't go to the hospital and see Magnum, so what they did was, one of our people that worked at the office was also a Charlotte City police officer, and he arranged with the hospital to sneak Flair and some of his guys up a back stairway and into the room in the middle of the night so that nobody would see him so they could go and see Magnum.
Flair.
That's fire, bro. I don't give a fuck what you say. The fact that motherfucking Ric Flair would take the time, shut the city down, and go see my mans in the hospital at nighttime. I love Ric Flair, man. I swear to God.
Came to my room with the 10 pounds of gold, laid it on my chest, said, I'm giving you this one, and wait for you to come back in the ring and get the other one.
When Magnum had his accident, he was obviously automatically without income. And in this case, all of the guys on the roster got together and said, we will donate whatever from our check per week to Magnum, and Jim Crockett, as the promoter, would match the total of everything that was collected by the wrestlers. So whether it was $25 a week or $50 a week out of everybody's check, but there were 30 guys, and then he'd match it.
What's your role in his recovery?
I was there every day. I went to the hospital every day, and I helped feed him, bathe him, helped him with everything that he needed.
So I don't really get to have real soul-searching moments about all of this for about 30 days. When things cleared a little bit, I got out of the ICU, got in a room, people were able to start relaying things to me that was going on in the outside world that I was pretty oblivious to.
I love Magnum more than I love everyone else.
Saying somebody that happened to a man so talented, in good shape, I don't want it to end his career or nothing.
Immediately I felt horrible. Not for me, but for my friends, for Dusty, for Jimmy, because I knew everything they had built around me. Their whole future and plans and everything is built around me. There was no plan B.
Magnum TA was this shooting star that we attached ourselves to. We were flying high with him. There was nothing to stop us. But then that shooting star went dark. And with that, we went dark. We were trying to find our way, just like Magnum was trying to find his way.
I'm on a tour in Japan. My first night back is in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. Dusty and Jim Crockett pulled me into an office. And it took him a few minutes, as I recall, to really convince me, like, no, we're not kidding. Like, this is for real. He's lying in a hospital in Charlotte, North Carolina right now, fighting for his life. He's Dusty's guy. He's his bread and butter. He's groomed to be the next world heavyweight champion. So obviously this leaves a void.
The last 2 weeks have been very difficult for Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, because Magnum TA and Dusty Rhodes made their own rules. We love fast cars and fast times, and that's the way we lived on the end of that lightning bolt that crashes through this vast earth of ours.
So Dusty and Crockett and everybody else was faced with, well, what do you do when you're still making a movie but your star is gone? You gotta find a new star. At that point, there was no major wrestling name that was just floating around waiting for a phone call. So Dusty looked within his own roster and said, who can possibly not take Magnum's spot and look like him and act like him and do the same thing that will be seen as a copy of him, but who can take that spot and do it in a completely different way?
And I have a new partner, and that's Nikita Koloff.
I'm like the #1 most hated guy in wrestling right now. I mean, the fans love to hate me, and I'm Russian. At this juncture, I'm only 2.5 years into my career.
With the new plan in place, the challenge becomes selling the story to the fans.
Jim Crockett called me and he says, would you be willing to come up to the hospital? Magnum's asking for you. He needs to talk to his fans nationally about what's going on, and you guys, magazines, are the only way to do this.
Reporting from Magnum's bedside, Bill Apter helps to engineer Nikita's transformation into a babyface hero.
Bill Apter was the only, from the magazine side, that I had built a bond with and I trusted.
The story that was worked on was so heartwarming because Nikita Koloff, and we had a picture of this on one of the wrestling magazines, that there was a tear coming down Nikita's eyes for the cover, and he said, I cry for Magnum TA.
And for the fans, for the very first time, oh my gosh, Nikita really does have a heart.
There was literally millions of people like watching from the sidelines now, that they were looking at this man that's now fighting this real life battle, and they're all pulling for me. How's he gonna handle it? What's he gonna do?
Despite being partially paralyzed and confined to a hospital for months, Terry Allen refuses to give up.
We all love him and we hope he gets better so he can wrestle. If not wrestle, at least, be a part of the NWA still.
In April of 1987, Crockett hatches a plan to bring Magnum TA back at one of their biggest events of the year.
Baltimore Arena, Terry Allen, AKA Magnum TA, is gonna make his first appearance back in an arena.
And to see him again in person was just something it's hard to put into words.
For me, watching Terry Allen walk down that aisle, that shows me that you can overcome almost anything and never give up.
I mean, for a guy who is supposed to be lifted out of a bed and fed the rest of his life and bathed and all of that, to be able to walk under his own power was an absolute miracle in and of itself. I mean, I got choked up, like for real, because it was a surreal moment.
I can remember the moment, the emotion, and the feel, and the fans, and just like it was yesterday, it was one of the most emotional moments I've ever experienced. They saw me come from, death's door to never gonna walk again, to my gosh, you walked to the ring.
Despite his enduring popularity, it's clear that Magnum's wrestling days have come to a permanent end, leaving his future uncertain.
It makes you have to adjust your thinking. You try to find a way to fit back into the industry. I was an intelligent guy.
You wanna
I
lay
was
down?
still well-spoken. So I worked as a color commentator for a while.
I'll be working with you, Magnum. I really look forward to that. I know all the fans in Chicago look forward to seeing you again.
It's going to be great, and I can't wait.
Magnum finding his niche in wrestling after his accident was very hard because being around it, you always want to be back in it.
The hard times continue for Magnum behind the scenes.
We settled into a normal life. I thought our marriage was doing well, but
we stayed together for about a month after I got out of the hospital.
there was some infidelity past the accident. I felt like I had given pretty much everything I had. I just couldn't do that anymore.
And it was so overwhelming for her because the realities of all the things that had taken place on the road, she becomes aware of because I'm forthcoming. And I feel bad about it. This is a bad deal.
I loved him very much. It was hard for me to leave him, but I think at some point you're just like, once something is done again, how many times can you let that happen?
As Terry's relationship ends, the once mighty Crockett Promotions implodes.
At this point, nobody on either side of the wrestling war or any of the fans or the observers realized exactly how crucial this was going to be a point in the wrestling business. All of a sudden, they had to start from scratch.
In 1988, Crockett makes a deal with media mogul Ted Turner, leading to the birth of World Championship Wrestling and the end of an era for wrestling fans.
If Terry Allen had never been in the accident, the future of the NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, the sky's the limit.
Damn, that's crazy.
You ever wonder what if about your wrestling career?
I do. I totally would have been satisfied being recognized as the world's heavyweight champion, having my run, having my time in the sun, and passing it off to the next 20-year-old that thought he could do it better.
If he never had the accident, movies, commercials, lifestyle, the World Heavyweight Championship.
When they see Magnum TA come out there to defend the United States Heavyweight Championship, they know that I'm the man that they can stand behind because I'm always out there 100%.
He was right at the brink of becoming the world champion. No doubt. For it to be gone in the blink of an eye, man, it should be a lesson for everybody. That life can change that quick.
One time, I remember Dusty and I, we were in Columbia at the Township Auditorium. We're sitting on the back steps, and he said, can you imagine how successful we could be at something else if we worked as hard at it as we are at this? And he was right. I've used the same commitment with the new opportunity as I had done all those years and attacked it with the same ferocity that I had when I was chasing the world title.
He is an individual that will not give up. Here's a man that is classified as a quadriplegic. He's not going to let it slow him down.
Terry decides to leave the wrestling world behind and sets his sights on a new career far from the squared circle. Along the way, he also finds another chance at love.
My name is Courtney Blanchard Allen, and I am Terry Allen's wife. First met Terry Allen approximately in 1997. Both of us were going through divorces, and we became really, really good friends and leaned on each other a lot for support during that time. And through that friendship, developed an intimacy and a relationship. He's my best friend.
For me, it's another miracle. I was given a chance to have a family, so I've done my best to be steady, make a secure home and a loving home for all the kids, make sure they were all provided and well taken care of and loved. And it's been an amazing ride.
It was the end of Magnum TA, but it wasn't the end of Terry Allen. You can be sad for what could have been, what the wrestling fans could have seen that they would have enjoyed and what he could have accomplished, but you can't be sad overall because he came back from the wreck. He's lived a long life, he's been successful in other things, and he's had a family and fans that still care about him.
That's a pin. That's it. That's got to be some kind of a record.
He pinned him. It had to be less than 15 seconds.
Is it tough for him day to day?
Oh, it's gotta be. Yeah. He'll never tell you that. he had just a small percentage chance of survival. And his ability to overcome absolutely anything has proven true every day since that accident. If he wasn't at peace with how it ended, it wouldn't be so inspirational. There are so many people out there that want to know more about his story to be able to do the things that he can do now.
I lived the dream that most people only dream of and never get to see come to fruition. The other what if is, what if I hadn't woke up at all? And I'm so thankful that I did.
Oh man, I hope I get to meet that man, bro. I appreciate that whole story right there, guys. Like, that was an amazing story. That was, I want to say dark. It's